No, green. That's right.
Rock and roll. All right. All right. I'll call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Austin for March 14th, 2023 meeting. We have a number of items on the agenda for tonight. First, we got to do some house cleaning and approve the minutes from our last meeting. Before we get to that, I want to welcome one of our new commissioners tonight, Jason Duffy. Welcome to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
So, you all should have got your packet from Lauren with the minutes from our last meeting, which was way back on September 13th of last year. Does anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes as written? If not, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
Brad, have a motion from Commissioner Swenson and a second from Commissioner Lindberg to approve the minutes from the September 13th meeting as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved as written. Second up, we chair and vice chair. So who
Well, I
wants the
think I have
gavel?
a nomination for, or at least Mr. Lutz, or Commissioner Lutz was interested in doing the chair position again this year.
Me too, if no one else wants.
Yeah, and then, I believe, Mr. Duffy or Commissioner Duffy and Commissioner Burrows were willing to do the vice chair position.
I'll be happy to share it this year with, or give it to Mr. Duffy.
Or, or individually, however we want to do it. But if I could get a nomination for both positions.
Is that in the form of a motion?
How should we do nominations, Mr. Byron? It can be informal.
Okay,
I'll nominate Commissioner Lutz as chair and Commissioner Duffy as vice chair.
Okay. I guess we can vote. All in favor of the nomination as presented by Commissioner Burrows? Say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. We have Commissioner Lutz as our chair and Commissioner Duffy as our vice chair. All right.
all right.
Move ahead.
First up was an open public hearing to consider petition from the Austin Housing Redevelopment Authority to approve the preliminary and final plats for redeveloping for an apartment building. Holly?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the location here. It's east of the post office and includes the entire block minus the parcel on the south end of the block. The area was previously residential and open space, but has been, I think I'm on let me make sure I'm on the plat piece. Yeah, we're doing the plat first, right?
Yep.
Okay. The property was previously zoned, or is currently zoned B2 commercial and I1 light industrial. The surrounding land use and zoning is somewhat diverse. To the south is also commercial and I1 industrial. Across 2nd Avenue, it's zoned RO residential office. East across 3rd Street Northeast, it's primarily residential, but zoned I1 and B2, which is again light industrial and commercial. North across 1st Avenue is zoned commercial and I1 and has residential use as well. The residential uses in B and I zones are non-conforming uses. It is likely that lots to the south will be rezoned to an RO or R2 rather than retaining the commercial and industrial zones, as we would like to continue to allow residential uses and limit commercial and industrial use in the future. This area was formerly used by a railroad company and a road was removed in that area, if you recall. This area we have discussed in the past, for those of you who've been on the planning commission for a while. The area is, there's some interest by the city and the HRA in targeting this area for redevelopment. There have been, for various reasons, some disinvestment in the area, and it could use some attention. In this particular instance, the petitioner is redeveloping the existing lot, which was already platted many years ago, into these different lots. Some of those lots have, it looks like, were likely combined at some point. Now they are, they wish to replat the site to combine the lots and simplify the legal description, which will then be used to legally describe the property moving forward. And then also, generally, we would prefer from a building perspective to get rid of those property lines because they can impact some of the code requirements for building. The area is 1.23 acres. The number of lots would be 1. Ultimately, there is a storm sewer easement noted on the plat, and the city will relocate the storm sewer. My understanding, the storm sewer is about 100 years old, so needed to be at least examined, if not something changed. So again, that area here outlined. The neighboring properties were noticed primarily because there's also a rezone that will be coming up, also associated with this particular area. Let me pull that up. I did not receive any calls or emails from any of the individuals on the list, but I did get a call from a representative of the Culberts who live on the parcel directly south. Let me pull that up again. And they are also here at the meeting. The Planning Commission is just asked to review the plat, and if you have any questions or concerns, or any further discussion, let me know. The Planning Commission will approve the preliminary plat with conditions or deny. The final plat will be substantially similar to the preliminary plat and will go to council for approval. The Planning Commission may make a recommendation on the final plat. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I see the replat creates a new block 1, lot 1 for the apartments.
Yep, it kind of consolidates all of that, and instead of having it be, what was the previous?
Lots 2, 3.
Yeah, it's on the application. Yeah, I
But
think
the other property to the south is going to stay as 4 individual lots.
that it won't change any of the legal description of that property.
So now we'll have 2, 3, 5, and 6, and 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the description is for their parcel, but theirs has not been included in the replat.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay, this is an open public hearing, so we've got some folks here tonight. Did anyone else want to address the commission on this? If not, we'll look for a motion. We're gonna do this, as we talked earlier, in two pieces. We'll do the preliminary plat approval or denial or recommendation with conditions, whatever we want to do, and then we'll do the final plat as a separate motion, and that's a recommendation to council, so. Any of the commissioners ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion approving the preliminary plat.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Burrows and a second from Commissioner Swenson to approve the preliminary plat as presented. Correct? Okay, any further discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? Okay, so the approval of the preliminary plat is passed. So, same drill for the final plat.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the final plat to council as presented.
I'll second.
All right, same drill. We have a motion to recommend to council to approve the final plat as presented from Commissioner Burrows and a second from Commissioner Swenson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. So the final plat also passes unanimously. Okay, so now we gotta talk about the next item, another open public hearing to look at the rezoning.
Yeah, so again, located in the same area, First Avenue and Third Street Northeast, east of the post office. This area, again, previously residential and open space, exactly the same as the plat. The petitioners made this rezoning request to amend the future land use plan and change the current use from mixed B2 commercial and I1 light industrial district to RO residential office to add an apartment to the mostly residential neighborhood. I should just note that with our current zoning, an apartment would be allowed with the B2 and I1, but the rezoning all to one district makes sense. And then also down zoning to a less intensive potential use would fit that area better than the commercial and industrial, which I think has been part of the reason why there have been some conflict in that area and maybe less investment. Some of the things that you should consider, this isn't necessarily via ordinance, but the consistency of the proposed zoning with the goals, policies, and future land use map of the comprehensive plan. When we updated our zoning code, it now automatically updates the future land use plan, actually, land use map with an approval. So if the RO is approved, our future land use plan will also be updated as well. Although I did include those two things separately in this particular instance. Should consider the compatibility of the site with the uses permitted in the proposed zoning district. I just noted that it's surrounded by both commercial and single-family residential, and that it may act as a transition between the commercial and single-family. The compatibility of all the potential uses allowed in the proposed zoning district with the surrounding uses and zoning in terms of land suitability, impacts on the environment, density, nature of use, traffic impacts, aesthetics, infrastructure, and potential influence on property values. The residential office zone, again, is a down zone from the more intensive commercial and industrial zones, which tend to create more conflict with residential uses. The broader area has existing multifamily and is very mixed in use, which has caused, again, disinvestment in residential uses. The area has been targeted by the city and HRA for redevelopment and reinvestment. The capacity of the existing infrastructure and services sufficient to accommodate the uses permitted in the requested district without compromising the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. The city is relocating a storm sewer section, but otherwise there is, it's previously platted, has existing infrastructure, and is compliant with city, state, and federal laws. and those are also, compliance is also required during construction. Whether the use is permitted in the proposed zoning district will cause detrimental environmental impacts, including but not limited to excessive stormwater runoff, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, excessive nighttime lighting, or other environmental harm. This zoning, again, down zoning would lessen those potential impacts. And then there will be screening between the existing home and new apartments. Demo and construction would be allowed per regulations. Boundaries of the requested zoning district are sufficient to meet the dimensional requirements by the proposed zoning for the proposed zoning district. The project will meet all required zoning regulations for the RO district and can meet those regulations. The ability of the applicant to satisfy any requirement applicable to the specific use imposed pursuant to zoning and land use regulation, again, is anticipated they will meet parking, other zoning requirements, and no variances have been requested. So the Planning Commission would make a recommendation to City Council to approve with conditions, or deny the petitioner's request to amend the future land use plan from commercial and light industrial to mixed use, and the parcels from commercial light industrial to RO residential office. There's some maps of the area again. There's a little yellow circle on this map showing where it kind of is related to the rest of the community. And then here's a zoom in of the current zoning in that area. So there's industrial, there's multifamily, there's commercial. This darker color is the central business district downtown. This is our future land use map. Area's kind of circled here. That was from our previous discussion when we were looking at the entire area. And then, again, the same notices went out. This is just the plats showing the area. And then there's some site plans just to kind of show the proposed location of the building. There's still some what do you want to say, like maybe additions or changes happening, but I think they're not wildly different than what is shown. The HRA representative and the nonprofit that is working with them has a representative here as well if you have questions of them. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about the things that were noted?
Just to clarify, we're only rezoning the same piece of property that we approved the plat on, correct?
Correct, yes.
Holly, I have a question if I'm able to ask.
Once they finish discussion, then they'll open it up to the public. And if you want to make comments to the commission, you can just go up to the lectern and then give your address, which is pretty obvious, but and name, just so that we have it for the record.
Yep.
Okay.
Any questions from the commissioners?
So are we rezoning that entire city block or just the platted area?
Just the platted
Just the
area.
platted area.
Okay,
Yeah, I did reach out to the culprits, but we weren't able to connect, so
okay.
we didn't include them in anything for this particular matter.
Anything more from the commission? Okay, it's an open public hearing, so again, I'll open the floor to anybody that's here that wants to address the commission.
If you want to address, you can.
Oh, I was just curious about, like, do I come up?
Probably just easier for a record keeping perspective.
Just come up to the podium and give your name and address.
Okay. Leah Hubbard. I live at 211 2nd Street Southeast.
Do you want me to bring the map up?
Well, I was just wondering
Okay.
about the packet, because when you were saying things like this information went out, were you giving that out to people that were surrounding the area, or?
We normally give notice of a meeting,
Okay.
and that goes out by letter.
Okay.
And then if people have follow-up questions or they want the packet,
Yeah.
they can contact me ahead of time, or otherwise they can come to the meeting and then they'll
So would this be that
participate.
meeting?
Yeah, this is the meeting,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a way I can get that packet? And did you have a list of?
I sent it to your, I did send it to your attorney. He had requested
Okay.
it.
Thank you. And then there's gonna be a list of like the people in the surrounding neighborhood that we're
Yeah, that's in the packet, yep.
All right, that's all I was.
Yep, okay.
Anyone else here want to address the commission on this?
Yeah, I should note, as I did earlier, that the mailing list that went out, I did not get any calls or questions from anyone on the list other than a representative of the Culvers. There was another, let's see, there was another project that was done nearby, which was the PRC, the Cybele Center did an addition close to that area as well. Just relevant because people may have had notices prior, or at least had some experience with, well, they wouldn't have gotten notices for that because didn't have to be rezoned, but. So this was, yeah, here the PRC cab project was over here. And this is where the apartment is proposed. And this is the post office here.
Chairman Litz. Kyle, you want to put up the blow up on the current zoning map? You had the.
Oh, sure, yeah. This one?
I just wanted to clarify for the commissioners the sort of the standard or the purpose of what you're doing on this action is what makes sense long term for future land use and development in this area. And I don't know what you think. You're certainly free to have your own opinions on these things, but the gray areas that you see, those are industrial use zoning. And if you've traveled around that neighborhood, it's hard to imagine that it is a good public policy to have those areas that are now residential start to develop industrial uses on them. At some point in history where there might have been railroad activity or other things there, that probably made sense. Similarly, the commercial zoning is a heavier commercial zoning. And again, traveling around the neighborhood thinking, would we want, really commercialized area here? If a developer comes in and says, I want to put industrial right there right now, we'd have a hard time stopping them. If they wanted to come in and put some intensive commercial right there, we'd have a hard time stopping them. So one of the things I think that it's important to think about is you have an applicant now who is saying, I want to put residential on this lot, and I would like it to be sort of tailored in to that type of use. And your question today to answer is, does that make a lot more sense long-term for that neighborhood than the way it's currently zoned? Because existing uses, no matter what you do today, existing uses will not be impacted. The question is, what happens when someone comes in and wants to redevelop some lots into something else? And it would have been nice to be able to do, 2, 4, 5 blocks and just kind of wipe out a lot of that industrial and do some other things. But we don't tend to force the issue on landowners. We tend to try to take it when we get it. And that's why today you're just looking at this platted area. It's all going to be developed into this residential apartment complex. But long term, if that weren't to work out, what would you like to see there? Would you like to see industrial on half of that and commercial on the other half? Or would you like to see more along the lines of what's being proposed today there? This application, if you approve it, would kind of lock it into just those uses that are appropriate in this proposed zoning rather than the current zoning. So again, just looking at the map and thinking about that neighborhood and thinking about what's best, not just today, but 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. That's what you're being asked.
So with that thought in mind, Craig, did we try, or did we explore the possibility of rezoning the entire lot,
I mean, the
entire block?
The entire block.
Because there's still gonna be two industrial blocks
I did reach out to the Culberts,
there,
but
right?
we weren't able to connect. I think it was a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
I just kind of considered it that maybe they could piggyback on the HRA's application, but unfortunately we weren't able to connect, so I didn't want to move that forward without discussing that option with them. If we did, if we do at some point redo the entire neighborhood, we would send out notices to all of the property owners. A lot of it already exists as multifamily zoning, but I think that the industrial in there is troublesome. Would like to see that changed at some point.
Well, it made sense when there was a railroad going through there. It doesn't make sense when it's
Yeah, back in the
multifamily residence.
70s or 80s.
And sometimes it's good to update things with the times, how things have changed.
Any other thoughts or comments from the commissioners?
anything more from the Culverts? Okay. Okay, if nobody's got any more questions, I'll look for a motion.
So state what the motion would be.
The motion would be, this is a recommendation to council to approve to rezone this newly platted property from currently I-1 and B2 to RO, which is multifamily and office, for the purpose of, well, in this case, for the purpose of the office, or for the apartments.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Lindberg and a second from Commissioner Swenson to recommend to council to approve the rezoning request from I-1, B2 to RO for this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. So the motion carries.
All right, for the people here on the HRA matter, you do not have to stay for the remainder of the meeting.
Okay, so next up, our property out at Creekside.
Yeah, this is very similar process to the replat that you just saw. This particular plat is brought by Austin Port Authority. There's no representative here other than myself. The property is located in our Creekside Business Park, and I'll pull up the map in a minute. The park as a whole is zoned I-1 light industrial. The property north, south, and west of the proposed plat is also zoned I-1 industrial, and then east across 4th Street Northwest is residential, and then also outside the city limits in Moore County. The petitioner is requesting to plat this property for commercial development. This site is approximately 10 acres. The number of lots would be 1. There's no public right-of-way or easement dedicated on the plat. And then if the Port Authority is able to reach an agreement, there will be a purchase agreement which would detail any improvements, allocation of costs and liabilities, which is none of that is included in this plat. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So the planning commission would approve, with conditions, approve with conditions or deny the preliminary plat. And you can make a recommendation to the council for final plat. Okay, just need to minimize that a little bit. So this is the plat that is proposed, and then I'll zoom in on this a little bit. And this is the general location of the proposed platted area. To the south is All for Dogs, and I believe there's someone here from All for Dogs. And then it doesn't show on our aerial, but New Tech is over here in this area. There's, I think, a little bit of a road that goes in here. But anyway, so this is 4th Street here. And I'll leave it to you if you have any questions.
Are there plans to complete that 27th Avenue?
Yeah, in fact, there's a very significant federal grant that has been secured, and so that is in the process
Okay.
and will be completed. And that's why there's not a lot of utilities or other things on this plat, is that the utilities will be in that 27th Avenue, and it's not part of this, it's already been platted.
Okay.
The strange thing about the industrial park is that we don't know how many acres a development might need, so it's impossible to kind of plat the whole thing out, because you'd make a bunch of lots that are the wrong size anyway and have to come back and change them. So the Port Authority tends to plat as we develop. So for instance, All for Dogs has its own plat, because when they located there, they knew how much space they needed, and we worked it out and we platted that. Now we're going to plat this one. It's a less than ideal way to plat a large location, but it's really the only way to do it. If you're building houses and they're all going to be about the same size, you can build lots that are all about the same size, and it works out pretty well. But for industrial, somebody might need 4 acres, somebody might need 15. It's impossible to predict what that looks like, so that's why they come to you this way. And for a plat, the primary thing you're asking is, are all the utilities there? Does this create any traffic problems and those sorts of things? With this one, the nice thing is Mower County State Aid Highway next to it. You can't put access drives there, so it doesn't create any traffic problems there that don't already exist. And we've already platted out the 27th, so that's already done. So there's really not a whole lot to look at on this. Sorry, I also represent the port, so the backside.
He's
of
heard
this.
about this more than I have, to be honest.
Right.
So this is a replat preceding a deal that the Port Authority is trying to make to sell the property. If that deal doesn't go through, the plat stands, right? This property stays platted that way, correct?
So the plat technically becomes official when it's recorded. So we'll go through all the approval processes. If this deal falls through, we may never record this plat. And then it'll remain just part of Outlot D in a former plat. But if the deal goes through, then this will all be approved and we'll record it as part of the transaction. Then this will become the legal description for the lot. Good question.
I assume that would be the case, that we would not record it because there's a fee for that, so
Well, and
until the deal goes through.
And the next developer might want 17 acres instead of 10, and then we'd have to go through the whole process again. So this looks pretty serious, though, I would say.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll have to do this one just like the last two.
It's also a public hearing, so you should probably just announce it.
Oh. Yeah, that's right. Anybody here that wants to talk to the commission about this?
I was just here for curiosity, to the point where it is now, I have no questions.
Okay,
Question what, my mind was, if you had in mind who was going in, who would it be, and is it gonna affect the dogs out there? Which Megan is,
Yeah, I would refer you to to economic development, to Craig Clark. He would have some information about that probably not really relevant to the plat piece of this.
well, I mean, everything is secret right now as to who's going in, so.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, but.
Yeah, I don't know, there have been some there have been some public meetings at the Port Authority, so I would talk to Mr. Clark.
I know Craig. Yep.
Yeah, so I think there is some information potentially that you could get
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
more detail, potentially.
you good?
I'm good.
All right. All right, so if there's nothing more from the commissioners or the public, I'll entertain a motion.
First one is to approve, deny, or approve with conditions, the preliminary plat.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat from Commissioner Burrows and a second from Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, so the motion to approve the preliminary plat is carried. So now I need a motion for the final plat. This is recommendation to council.
I'll make a motion to recommend to council the approval of the final plat as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a motion to recommend to council to approve the final plat from Commissioner Burrows and a second from Commissioner Norman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Well, the motion carries. Okay, the next two items are also open public hearings, but we're just going to continue those until a future meeting.
Yeah, if you could continue, the plan is to have this on the April 11th, I believe. Let me double check the date.
Just do a motion to continue both to the April 11th.
Yep.
That way we don't have to renotice.
Oh, okay. So I need a motion to continue the next two items.
I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Swenson and a second from Commissioner Duffy to continue the next two items on the agenda
To the April 11th, 2023 meeting.
to the April Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. Anything else, Holly?
I have nothing else.
Any other commissioners have anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'd second that motion.
Motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.